Welcome to episode 3 of Pirate Radio. We're getting steadily better and better at intros. This week I've got my normal comrades, Kaidus and Eepily. I'm also going to be joined by Nuze. And since we're doing the award show tonight as well, we're going to be joined by ETF2L's head admin, who I can only presume is still Sunny Black.
I'm going to get that. It's Stinson. Hey, hi, Stinson.
Hello. Good evening, everybody.
Due to budget constraints, we couldn't get Stinson's cam, unfortunately, so you have to deal with his voice.
I've just realised, we were talking about this before the show, why you guys were complaining about my camera. And I can now see, now we're live. Yeah, like... This is going to be... So we're going to start this show with an appeal. If anyone knows how to sort out my Logitech camera so it's not doing this, please advise now. I can confirm I've not got follow face on in my Logitech camera settings. And that's as far as our troubleshooting got in like the 20 minutes before we came live.
Oh yeah?
Yep.
Speaking of which, let's get going.
In the meantime.
So, should we jump straight in with the awards then?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Let's start at the top then. Top of this list nobody else can see. And it's Demoman of the season, so Sunny Black, talk us through the nominations.
Welcome in 2017, CX. The nominations, or the nominees for Demoman of the season were just 2 of them, because they were the only people nominated. Ali and Adam Racecar.
Which is still an excellent name, I think. It's pretty easy because there's only 2 people. Obviously, Ali from 7, Adam Racecar from Foxes. It was Adam Racecar's debut to Prem, was it not?
Yeah.
So, as it is, it's already impressive to first season in Prem get a nomination for Demoman this season. Especially in a season where there's only 2.
I was surprised by how good he was, like, because everyone told me he was just like a little... they always describe, like, demos who are, like, good, but people don't know who they are yet. They always just get described as, like, random pipe kids, or, like, idiots who go around with pipes.
Yeah.
And he was described to me like that for about the first half of the season before I realised he was actually pretty decent. So, yeah, getting nominated in first season is pretty good. But was there anyone else, like, who slipped through the cracks, or was it literally just him and Ali who were any good?
In terms of like top teams, obviously Nerd Rage's demo, Namtak, there were he got his fair share of callouts in various games it is. I wouldn't have expected him to yeah, the less said the better, to be honest. I wouldn't expect him to be nominated anything particularly big. Obviously Champ fell to pieces, so I assume that none of them could get nominated. I don't actually know how that worked because
I think they could have done, because it's just up to the players who gets nominated, but I guess no one would have done, because usually everyone's just thinking playoffs by the time the awards roll around. No one really remembers the regular season, so not being in playoffs pretty much rules you out, usually, unless you were, like, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, well then, that's kind of like the Champ guys done anyway, and then there's obviously, like, Low Panda, but as it is, they were a bit low pandery, so you can kind of see why there's only 2 people, but in general, I think like I basically heard the same kind of things from you. I think like Adam Racecar had a lot of people reasonably upset with him from playing the 500 million Pug Champs.
Yeah.
All those guys tend to play, but I don't know, not really knowing a great deal of demo, I can't say a lot personally, but just I think you can see from the results of the games, the fact that he went on a Prem debut to like making second is pretty well showing.
One thing I heard echoed from a lot of players about him was that he was a toxic player, and that like he was difficult to play with. Yeah, like before he got picked up by Artifoxes, people call him this like up and coming top high demo, but people said he was like toxic, or that's where the race car, it was like Adam Rage Check is what people used to call him, because they said he would like rage and shit. But I don't know if that was just in pubs or if that
Adam Rage Check.
Rage Check, yeah.
Brilliant.
So he's got a bunch of these like meme names, but yeah. And then when he actually got picked up by Octofoxes, he was just more and more impressive every game he played. Maybe it's a bit of a stretch for him to like be winning Demoman of the season, but like the fact that it's just him and Ali like up for this award, and I think he's also awarded for debut of the season, which I'm not surprised by, because to come into a meta where you need to play very disciplined and it's easy to punish Demoman, and he's playing on a top 2 team like by the end of the season at least, and he's never played Prem before, and he's like outclassing a lot of the demos in Prem that have more experience than him. Like in the Arctic Fox's Nerd Rage game, he was outclassing Namtak for most of it. I don't know, he just kind of stands out as like one of the first players to come up from high in a long time that's like reached that level really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to factor in like to these considerations. No one really expected Arctic Foxes to do much at all, so you have to kind of look at their team and say who are the players that made them able to compete at that level. And I mean, there's quite a few like names worth mentioning, but I think Adam's the only one for me at least that like really stands out as being, other than Stefan, like a real like top like player performance. At least like I'm sure there are some others who had like good performances, but Adam did it pretty much every game. I think he had like a really consistent style of play. I guess on the other side of this coin, like we haven't really even said anything about Ali. For me, Ali is the winner. Like he's gonna win. He probably should win. But I feel like he didn't actually hit his peak in the playoffs of this season. Seven had this kind of storyline where they had really easy matches the first weeks of the season. Ali literally like just crushed everything with ease. But then they got past the easy matches, and the second half and the playoffs was slightly harder for them. And I don't know, for my taste, he never really. I don't think he peaked like in the first few weeks of the season and never hit like that level again. I still think he was the best demo, but I feel like it's worth mentioning. I don't think he actually played up to his own standard in the second half playoff end of the season.
Yeah, but like Ali's kind of in a position where he's being in the top team going to be like the most well-known demo, but also the demo who's kind of had to do the least in the season because like top team and they're kind of like expected to win games anyway. So it's not like he had to do anything massively insane. He kind of just had to keep more or less doing his thing. He did have a few like standout moments, though.
Yeah, I think one of the big differences between Adam and Ali, Ali's obviously like he's the in-game leader in that sense for Seven. Like he's doing the majority of the calling on most of the maps. I know Raymond called quite a bit on some of the Viaduct games this season, but Ali's the main caller, and like the way they play is centered around him and him calling. But with Arctic Fox's Feelings leading, and he's taking a lot more heals, so Adam's kind of playing a bit more of a support demo and like, you know, being the main heal target when he needs to be, but I think he plays less of a central role to the team than Ali does.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Yeah, I think Ali just, I don't know, the whole Seven team, like kind of, I didn't have like a fully inside perspective. It's not like I'm watching them every night, but having a partly inside perspective, there was like a lot of complacency with Seven, especially after like the first few weeks of the season when they were just breezing it, like it was nothing. They really weren't tested at the start, and then they were tested at the end, but it was sort of like let's just kind of limp over the finish line and regather for next season. So by the time it all happened, they just sort of they did it, but there was no real like, it wasn't the same swagger they had before. But I think he's still the best.
In terms of like actually seeing good performance, I know it's now ages ago. It is still a shame the fact that what was supposed to be the week 7 real interesting game this season, Champ versus Seven, actually didn't happen. In case, I don't think we've actually done a show since then. In case you didn't pay attention, basically, Champ collapsed in on herself, didn't do week 7, and didn't play the playoffs. So,
in case of those people who only watch Pirate Radio and not the game.
Yeah, exactly. And don't pay attention to anything else, just in case, you know, our 3 loyal viewers. But basically, like, because that week 7 game didn't happen, what would have probably been the most interesting game is like there just wasn't really a team that was properly gonna be contesting 7 anyway. But that's kind of the same for all of the 7 players which have been like nominated here. They didn't really have that kind of opportunity really. Just to go back to what we said a minute ago about Adam and like Namtak, I think it's interesting to see that throughout the majority of the season, at least from my point of view, it seemed that Nerd Rage and Foxes were kind of like pretty equal in a lot of it. And yeah, obviously by the end, Foxes were just like way ahead. I don't know if that was down to maybe they saw Nerd Rage making the same kind of mistakes or whatever, or just the fact that they improved better. But
I think Nerd Rage just have some like performance anxiety or something. Like they were all right in the second set they played, but the first series, like they just completely choked. I think they'd even admit it. And well, I mean, we'll get to GA later, but probably a bit of an underperformance by them again. So they've kind of fallen at every real hurdle so far. So I feel like, I don't know, Namtak's not a key player for them anyway, but whatever their true level is, I don't think they hit it in the big games at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's why it obviously makes sense. It was basically Ali and Adam, but
Shall we
don't
find
know
out?
what else can be said, really.
Let's find out who won.
Yeah, who won?
Was it my turn now?
Yeah, dude.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You got the
Okay,
mic.
good. So since there's only two, there's not gonna be a big drum roll. Ade won the award pretty convincingly, actually, with 75% of the votes.
Wow.
And Adam
Big boy,
got in
Ali.
second with 25. Yeah. So
Unlucky
congratulations to Ali.
Oh man, you've done it.
Oh, man.
Not really surprising though, right?
Yeah, no, I think
Not really. They said most recognizable player and the player on the team which didn't drop a single point in the season, right?
I think we managed a really good discussion considering how obvious it
Yeah.
was gonna win.
Considering
gonna take
everyone
a
knew
while.
about 10 minutes ago.
That
Yeah,
was nice.
well. CX, move us on to the next one. Do your job.
He's still fixing
I'm
his
still
camera.
having camera issues. This is truly going to be an ongoing saga. Next up, we have Scout of the Season. So, Sonny, talk us through the nominations.
Stinson, take us through the
Oh,
nominations.
me? Oh, right.
CX is
Sorry,
still
I was
making the
out
same...
there. Oh, I don't react to Sonny, sorry. So, Scout of the Season nominees were, let me check, Shocky, Puskari, and Talash. Discuss away, boys.
Well, my vote ended up going for Shocky just because, as an individual player on his team, Shocky was much more impactful on his team than like Puskari and Thalash had to be. But at the same time, they're both on the best team in the game. I mainly went for Shocky just because whenever I'd like tune in and like watch a game, it always seemed like Shocky was just like getting shit done just constantly. He was like really one hell of a driving force for his team, it seemed. Whereas Thalash and Puskari, they weren't necessarily bad in any way, but it's just a case of they were on a winning team in a comfortable position more, so they kind of had to do less.
I think with Thalash and Puskari, obviously it's like a more stable roster and a more stable style of play. They just need to show up and do their set role within the team, and they're going to perform fine as a team. But I think with Arctic Foxes, they had a lot of roster issues with Leto being replaced, and then they like Sikaz's PC exploded or something, and they didn't know who they were picking up as a second scout until Champ died. So there was a lot of like I don't know, there was a big grey area in that regard with the roster, and I think Shocky kind of stepped up as one of the players on the team that's like, I'm going to come up big in a lot of these matches consistently, and I'm going to give us something to ride like towards being a stable roster and like a successful team. I think if he wasn't putting in the performances he was doing like in the second half of the season, it probably would have been a bit more shaky.
I think this is quite an interesting one. Like, I get what you guys say about Shocky. He definitely had like I'd say the bigger performances in the big games, but he's one of those players, he kind of always has been, where he just sort of turns up when he feels like it. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, but he's not like consistently playing at a really high level anymore.
Yeah,
I feel like he always could. Like he's always still shocking. He always could show up and just like crush everyone if he was motivated. But the lack of motivation makes him not give these performances all the time. Whereas with Thalash, I feel like he was really consistent the whole way through the season. He was one of the best players for 7 all the way. And then I don't know. For me, Puskari doesn't really enter the conversation yet. He's probably the most skilled of all 3 of these players, like in terms of aim. But he's such a spacer, man. Like he's just all over the shop. Like, he can be really sick, he can hit everything, but he can also just, like, die retardedly 3 times in a row and then take force of nature or something. Not quite literally that, but he's really... he's, like, a really chaotic person, and it reflects in his play. But he's one who, like, in the next couple of seasons, if he can find the right, like, role within the team, like, they're now trying him on the combo role, then he could be, like, the best guy in Europe with his skill, but I don't think he's there yet. Whereas, I don't know, for me, it's between Thalash and Shocky, and Thalash was, like, way more consistent, so, yeah. I voted for Thalash, personally, so...
I voted for Thalash as well.
What? You just about
I
Shocky?
mean, I was, for the point of discussion, I was, you know, saying some points about Shocky, but I did actually vote for Thalash.
My position was reasonably biased just because I more or less voted for the scout who was, like, was involved in like the most interesting games, but you're obviously it's going to be more difficult to have those standout moments when you're expected a 5-0. Exactly the same as Ali. It's going to be the same with like every 7 player. So, yeah, it's pretty good. Stinson, want to tell us who it was then?
Sure. I'm gonna start with third place then too. It was actually the closest vote of all of them. Every participant got over 30% of the votes.
Oh wow!
And in the third place is Talash with
Wow!
30.3%.
That is close.
Winning the award with 37.3% is Pueskari, and Chucky is on the second place with 32%.
Oh god, dude!
Oh my god, that's a
Congratulations,
slam.
Pueskari.
ETF2L awards. Strike again.
That's gonna sting. Oh boy, I'm shocked.
Feels bad, man.
That's really surprising.
Is this it? Has
Okay.
Thalas just confirmed himself as the next Happy Cool? Is this going to be every season from now on?
Like, Pueskari's really good. Like, at his peak, he's definitely, like, gives the best performances of these three players. But I don't know if on the balance of this season, I don't think he was the best scout of the whole, like, season. Like, you wouldn't say, I don't feel like you can say Pueskari's the best scout in Europe at the moment. But you could probably say that about Thalash. I don't know. This is weird. They're all good, though. Like, this is one of the categories where everyone's actually, like, all the nominees are, like, you can give an argument, like, for all of them.
Yeah,
Well,
they're
maybe
all
it's
total
because it was
fragments.
surprising, right? Like, Talash, Shocky, and nobody really expected Pueskari to, like, show. And then everybody was impressed, so they voted for him.
Yeah. And in fact, I think Pueskari's just a lovable gamer anyway. I think I've ever played with him and he's not been just ecstatic to be, like, alive, basically. So, maybe it's that, maybe it's some bias. I'm trying to work out what CX is doing. CX, you still there?
Yeah, I think I crashed Skype.
In terms
Alright.
lead us into the next one.
In terms of actual awards, we're still on track though. I've still got that up. So
Nice.
next up, we're going to go for Roma of the Season. So Stinsus, talk us through who was nominated.
The nominees for Roma of the season were Drak, Tiger, and DD5F.
Huh. I didn't realise that. I thought Corback was in here and I was going to talk about Corback.
yeah. That was a bit of a strange one to not be nominated.
This is by the Prem players who did this as well, right?
Yeah.
What?
Yes,
Yeah,
every player could nominate one player in each category if he wanted to, but a lot of players didn't realize it or just didn't care. Like, especially the people who weren't in the playoffs didn't nominate a lot of people, so.
Okay. So I guess, I don't know, for me, Drak takes this one really obviously. Tiger has a lot of skill, but I don't think he plays the role particularly well, especially compared to like the likes of Drak. Like, he can hit nice rockets, but I remember watching, it was Ams, I think, did a demo review of Zesty. He's the Roma for Lemmings, right? He was anyway. Yeah, he did a demo review of Zesty, and they played Tiger's team on Viaduct. And Zesty was just like doing whatever he wanted. He was just like pushing like the flank, going behind. Like, he would spam Tiger out, go behind, do whatever the hell he wanted. And I remember watching, thinking, wow, like, Tiger's not even kind of in this fight. He's just getting... He wasn't getting, like, outskilled, but he just was being outplayed, I felt like. And Zesty's not even in the conversation here. So, yeah, the only one who I would give a shout-out to other than Drak is Corback, who had a real big, like, impact whilst his team was being quite successful. Like, Tiger had some impact plays, but his team wasn't very successful, so it's hard to say they had that much impact. Whereas Corback, like... He has like a real big presence on mids. Like, he just arrives on you really early. Like, as a demo, I've played against him a few times now, and he just sort of out of nowhere is like on your nuts as soon as you get to mid, and then it's like you get pressured back. And I haven't played against him enough to really say how effective it is long term, but I was quite impressed by him. But Drak kind of takes this one for me quite clearly.
I'd agree. I'd say, like, for Corback, I think he uses jumps better than any other soldier in Europe at the moment. I think he's the most dynamic in his positional play, like, because of that. And I think a lot of the impact that he has in games is just him showing up like unexpected and catching people off guard a lot of the time. But yeah, because Corback's not nominated, I think this is like pretty clear that Drak wins this. DD5F, he had a better season than seasons past, but I don't think he's quite Roma of the season. And then Tiger, I think he's probably one of the most talented players like to come up in the EU scene in a long time. I think he's got like so much potential, and he could be one of the best soldiers of all time. But he still lacks some aspects to his fundamentals in his play.
I feel like in the current like meta, if you want to say it like that, he's better served on pocket.
Yeah,
I feel like pocket's a lot more of a free role in the game at the moment. Like, the pocket can set the tempo. Like, if you want to play aggressive. Like, it used to be the other way around. Like, the Roma used to be the guy who can just go in and die or whatever. But, like, I feel like since the rise of Crowns and Drak, especially in Europe, it's like the Roma has to be this really solid presence. So if you want to be this soldier who just goes in and DMs and does this kind of crap, you're way better served on Pocket, because like you can go in and die, and then your demo can take over the Pocket role for you, like with the Combo Scout. I feel like you have a lot more freedom to make plays and die and try things out and just generally be creative on Pocket. So I think he's playing Pocket next season, right, on Am's team? Like he's playing that role for them now?
I'm not sure how decided the rules on that roster are yet, but
okay.
I'll take your word for it.
I think that's how he's been. That's how they've been playing it. They've been trying various people on Roma, but either way, I hope he goes to Pocket because I think he's better served on that role at the moment. Because yeah, like I think the Drac Roma is just proving way more successful, and yeah, Drac the best basically.
Yeah, well, I'm more or less gonna be saying the same as you guys, but I think Drac is just exceptionally good always. He is quite
Drac's
an idol for all little Romas to look up to. In terms of like DD5F, I thought it was interesting, like where I went back and like rewatched a lot of the playoff stuff. I think it's interesting to see how the difference between Foxes playing against Nerd Rage and Foxes playing against Seven, because like they play against Nerd Rage, and there'd be so many times in which DD5 could just like he always seemed to be basically like one of those Romans who just like they really wanted to go for the pick, to go and like not particularly like disciplined, just like right, I'm gonna go like make things happen or whatever. And against Nerd Rage, it would just always consistently happen. It was actually like a bit weird to watch. A lot of times in the playoffs, like he'd end up like getting onto Ombrak and being able to like make these like key plays and stuff. And it actually made me sit there and like, wait, hang on, what's actually going on here? Like, is this Nerd Rage's fault, or is this DD5F somehow having like the sickest timing in the game? And then they go against Seven, and he basically looks like he's like running around like a headless chicken, basically. Seven with like their structure, they just like completely nullify his entire way of doing things. And I think like was quite an important thing to note in the playoffs. The fact that if Nerd Rage had anywhere near the structure of Seven, he wouldn't have been able to have anywhere near the same impact as he did. Whereas Drac's way of playing is consistent. Like he plays like for his team. The way he does things is just he is always good. He's just like such a consistently strong player. Whereas DD5 didn't really have that at all.
When I watch DD5 play, like particularly against Seven, like on mids, the same kind of sequence plays out again and again, where DD5 will do this sort of, he won't commit bomb, but he'll sort of jump, like do like a rocket and then fade away. And while he's doing that, like it works against some teams. When you play against Seven, what tended to happen was Ali would sort of win this initial exchange of the demos on the mid, create a lot of room for Thalash and Piscari to like get buffs and play relatively passive. So they would just sort of, D5F would do this bomb, but then just disappear because he realizes there's no room to go. And then while he's on his own side of the map, Drac would like come from behind, and then Seven would just sort of collapse on them, and there just wouldn't be that much. Either DD5F would be too separate from his team, or he would sort of not have much presence on the mid. I think he needs to find like some variations to his style of play to play against like the absolute best teams. But he can be quite like he can be very impactful against the not so strong teams. But when the other team's just kind of I guess solid, we'd say about Seven, I think he struggles there and needs to find some kind of variation, I guess, to how he plays.
I think DD5F like being brought up into this award is kind of, I mean, when you compare him to Drac, I think Drac's in another league. Like,
yeah.
I played what was it on DD plus 5 abs with DD5F on Romer in preseason playoffs, one of these past seasons. And I noticed a lot of flaws with DD5F's play, like fundamental errors, like he would die in really bad times and that kind of thing. This season, I feel like the team he's playing on's got more structure to it, so he's got a better idea of when to go in and when not to. And I think he just keeps to his role of kind of being the guy that goes in for sacks, and he does it like pretty good. But I think something that people forget about Drac is that he's not just a door watcher when he plays Romer. And if you saw like his performances at Rewind in particular, he can exploit things that like no other roamer in the game except like Blaze can do. Like the two of them are head and shoulders above all the other competition when it comes to roamer. And Drac can do more than just door watching, but I feel like people forget that because when Seven play other European teams, most of the time they're just dominating and Drac doesn't need to do much.
Yeah, dude, like Drac top fragged one of the maps in the grand final, right?
Drac's nuts. I think there was one game on Viaduct at Rewind where he was like 49 for 25 or something, and he had 9% heals, and he top damaged and like getting 50 frags on Viaduct as roamer against EVL who have Yomps and Corsa on Scout. It's like pretty nuts.
Yeah, on Snake in the grand finals where he top fragged, which is kind of, it was like a really close game. It was 2-1, and he top fragged. It was quite unheard of. He was, I can't remember, like it was too long ago now to recall specifics, but I remember coming out of that game thinking like Drac was a king.
Drac's a god.
Well, exactly as you mentioned, he can do the games where he's quiet and he can do the games where he's big. The fact he's got the discipline for the games in which he just needs to sit there and do his job. He's like, cool, good stuff. I'll do what needs to be done for the team to win. Basically, I think Drax probably won it. Stinson, has Drax won it?
Yes, he has. I ended up spoiling it in chat.
Yeah.
So yeah, Drag won with 55%.
Only 50.
Yeah. Well, I mean.
I guess there was 2 other nominees.
Yeah, DD5F second with 24%, and Tiger third with 20%.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's not a surprise or anything, though. You guys all said it.
If I might add that, according to Hildreth, Roma of the season is not going to be a thing anymore because he refused to nominate one because he doesn't acknowledge the concept of Roma. So, just
Don't
to throw
assume
that out
my
there.
main class.
I found that funny. I thought I would mention it.
I'm going to give a strong no comment on that one.
So the last ever Roma of the season, Drac.
Congrats.
Once and forever. Well done.
Let's move on to the other side then. Let's move on to the Pocket Soldiers, Stinson, who got nominated.
The nominees for Pocket Soldier of the season were Captain, Medico, and Feeling.
Captain's the best.
Captain is really good at the game.
Captain's nuts.
Problem is, I know, like, when I go back and like think of a lot of the games, even like the playoff games, like, Feeling had some good moments at times, but never seemed massively consistent. I don't know, like, he'd have his bits where he'd like run around and shotgun people, and that would trigger me because he'd run around and shotgun people. But I don't know, like, it seems like a similar kind of thing again, where it just seems like Captain is kind of like a league above. He's always able to do what his team needs. He's always able to like make these big plays and be way more impactful. I don't know, I'd probably say, in terms of this, I suppose it's because of how the Pocket Class works, but it's one of the awards in which, despite the fact that he was on the best team, which like just basically trounced everyone, it still showed Captain being like a total god of gaming, really.
What I would say, the first thing, I don't think, I mean, it is a little bit outdated in that it's not in the current meta, but I think Shotgun Pocket's still completely viable. We saw Froyo running it almost all of Rewind, and they won in the end, so...
And you can't stop Rando doing it. You can't. I think they've tried. They've called the police, they can't.
They just can't. But yeah, I think it all comes down to like how you play around your team, and I think Feeling tries to be the sort of old school Pocket that leads and, takes those solo Ubers with a shotgun and tries to get the better end of trades or that kind of stuff. And I think Medico kind of plays this weird, he's like halfway between old school, like heel heavy leading Pocket and the new age, like loose leash Pocket, and he just does it in his own style quite well. I think that's something that's quite key to Nerd Rage's play. But one thing that I always try and consider when I'm rating players, it's the balance between how much they take from the team and what they give to the team. And if you look at Captain, he's still consistently like the most heal and damage taken efficient Pocket in the world. Like, and he's just been like that for ages. Like, people will compare Captain's Pocket to Banny's, and I'd rate Captain higher because he takes less to do just as much, and he'll just consistently perform every single match, like every single big game. Captain's just the standout Pocket to me, and I don't think he could be nominated for this award and not win.
Yeah,
he's the man. So one thing I will say about Feeling though is I think it's underrated how important he actually is to Arctic Foxes.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it doesn't show in logs or even particularly in his play on the server itself, but I think in terms of comms and keeping the team like together in that combo, I think he's quite important there. Like, I mean, there's word that he might not play next season. I don't know how confirmed it is, but I haven't
heard this.
Yeah, like, I don't think it's confirmed one way or the other, but he's at least like not that motivated and considering maybe not playing. And I think Arctic Foxes would not be in trouble, but they would definitely be like, fucking hell, Feeling, please play. Because I think he does a lot to bring like the rest of the guys together, even though he doesn't have that big impact on the server itself. He's a bit of a Nox. I remember when Nox played Soldier, he was always like really crucial to the overall makeup of the team. Even on Medic, like, he was obviously always outshone by Miralyn when he, in terms of skill in the awards, but he was always like, the team with him was it's not like Feeling is a Nox, but he's like that same kind of role on the team. Not that skilled, but important for everything else, and doesn't necessarily translate to the viewers.
It is like inevitably a problem with like an award like that when people watching the games can only get like one view, whereas the team might be sitting there thinking, "Shit, Feeling is like the reason our team has like managed to make it this far." So
yeah, I might be overselling him by saying Nox, but it's that same sort of thing. I don't think it's as important as I don't think Feeling is as important as Nox was. It's the same kind of thing that doesn't translate for the viewers that much.
Yeah.
Last time, didn't we invent a award just so we could give it to Nox?
We gave him like the well, we didn't, but ETF2L gave him the retirement award, and then he came back at the weekend lifetime service back 3 months later. That was good.
So, Stinson, tell us how much Captain won by.
It's quite the margin. I'm gonna start with third place. So Medical came in third with 13.9%. Feeling got exactly 20% of the votes, and Captain won with 66.1%. Fun fact: it's not the biggest margin tonight. So yeah.
Yeah, you said you won.
But yeah, you won very convincingly.
I was gonna say, I'm glad we have got a. We're starting with the fun facts. You get on board, you know. Deserved, basically. Captain is hot shit.
Knock it, mate.
Oh yeah, and one comment on the Ubers situation, because people kept complaining that Ubers wasn't nominated. If the Prem players don't feel like Ubers should be nominated, I can't do anything about it, and neither can ETF2L, so please stop complaining.
So shut up, basically. Yeah.
Don't believe in the concept
it's on the players to nominate people. So if you disagree, then blame the players.
I find it so hard to judge how good Ubers is, because he's definitely good, but the way that team plays, like with so much crits and things like that, a lot of the time when you tell, like, how if you don't watch a team play that much, you just kind of look at the logs and be like, yeah, that kid's owning. But then when Ubers has like 400 DPM, he also had like 10 critters or something, and not to like discredit his play, it just makes it slightly more difficult to gauge how good he is. I mean, he's definitely somewhere between good and very, very good. But for me, at least, it's difficult to say where on that scale he is, if you know what I mean. And I reckon the other Prem players will feel the same. Because it's just so random. It's like not in the same schema of like judgment. You can't just like compare him to Captain and say he does this much worse than Captain. He just does it. It's like a completely different like way of playing the game to some extent.
Especially because it's a team which doesn't play with a second soldier a lot of the time. So he's doing a lot of soldier-based duties. So it's always
it's like I was saying, when you think about what he takes from the team and what he contributes, like he takes a shit ton of heals, more than any other pocket in Prem, I think. And that's just how they play. So you can expect him to have big performances and put up big numbers if he's that central a role to the team.
Exactly. Right, what's the next award? Carry us on.
Next is Medic of the Season, so Stinson, who was up for it?
Nominees were Raymond, Raptor, and Umbrek.
So surely Raymond won, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Raymond surely won this. I feel like Umbrak is, again, not Nox, but a bit of a Nox in that his contribution to the team collective is greater than his individual performance.
Yeah.
And Raptor is a worse version of Raymond. No, Raptor's pretty good, but like he's not on that level. Like,
I've spoken to... Go ahead.
Let's say go on.
Okay, I've spoken to Umbrak a fair amount about, like GAN before this. Like he says that he plays like quite a big part in the team in that they're completely reliant on him for calls. I think he calls like by far the most out of everyone on that team, and they just sort of go with it. So when he's having a bad game in terms of calling, or when he's not up to it, I think they suffer quite a bit for it. Whereas Raptor and Raymond play more like supportive roles in the team that are, the team doesn't rely on them as much.
I think Raymond's influence within the calls of Seven grows with every like week though.
Yeah.
Like, I guess Raymond's been part of that lineup for, I guess not a year, but almost a year. Mm-hmm. And like originally he came in when no one was really calling, and then like I was coaching, and then I wasn't there, and then Ali was calling. And I think through each like phase, he's kind of become more of like an influencing like voice on Mumble in terms of the actual gameplay, to the point where now I wouldn't say he shares the calls with Ali, but a lot of the more like subtle, like smaller little calls that like need to be made, like where you're coordinating the combo, he has a big role in that. So it's like worth giving him some credit there. But he's just like mechanically, he's just the best by a mile mechanically. He's honestly the best mechanical medic I think I don't know. I think he's the best ever.
I'd say ever. I'd agree completely.
I'm saying, based on that, when you say Raptor is like a worse version of Raymond, that's still not really an insult.
Oh, no,
Raymond's like insane, and
Raptor doesn't have the experience that Raymond has.
Yeah, Raptor will be, I think, very skilled one day. Yeah. Not to like I said, I think Raymond's the best of all time. So I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Raymond one day, but he's the same kind of player as Raymond probably used to be before I said he had this big calling influence, where he's clearly got like good reactions and like good skill, but he just hasn't played that much yet. So we have to see what he becomes. But he's good. Like Raptor has had like a lot of potential for ages, and he's been a lot slower to develop than I thought he would be. I think that's because a lot of people wouldn't give him a chance in a proper team, because he needed, like, I remember we used him as a merc years ago when he was like first showing some potential as like a movement medic or whatever you want to call it. And I mean, I'll be real, he was horrendous, like positioning, like knowing when to leave and fall back. He was actually worse than I expected. But all he needed was like, you know, a month with a decent team to iron that shit out, and then he was going to be fine. And now he's getting to that point finally. So I think he's one for like the next couple of seasons. He's going to develop if he keeps playing like with a good team. But he's going up against Raymond at the moment, so unlucky, basically.
I think one of the problems that a lot of players have in TF2 is like it's quite hard to learn like and develop your own play by yourself.
Yeah.
To a really high degree. TF2 is a game that like almost needs to be taught. So like when you have newer players that are coming into established teams that don't have that much experience on them, like Raptor coming into Arctic Foxes or all the teams he's been on the past few seasons, I think he's slowly been developing like a little bit at a time, picking up what he can. But it's not the case of like when you see Captain and Haffy when they first got picked up for your Reason lineup. Like those are two unproven players coming into a lineup with very experienced players, and they've got a lot of players to learn from, and they can develop quickly like that. But I don't think Raptors had the same kind of experience to draw from. I think the only player on Arctic Fox is just now that's got like a good amount of experience is Shocky.
That's kind of what I pointed to Feeling before as well, because even though Feeling he's not like a god tier caller or a god tier player, but I think
he's been around for a while.
Yeah, and in this day and age of the game where there's not that many good callers left, let's be honest, Feeling is actually valuable in that regard, and I think he's really been integral to the team and helping sort of, not that Raptor were bad at the start of the season, but getting Raptor to a consistent level in like a Prem playoff team. I think Feeling was quite important for that. But yeah, he's just not quite that good, like yet. I think it's worth mentioning with Ombrak, since we say, or at least we kind of say, he's like a bit of a Nox in that he's not the most skillful medic, but he's like really integral for the team in calls. I don't know how much blame he then has to get for the fact the team seems to like quite, not consistently choke, but they seem to underperform regularly at the moment. So I don't know what, because obviously they're French, we don't really get the same insight. At least I don't. Like, I don't know to what extent he has to take some responsibility for that, maybe. Because I remember, like, I've played in teams where we choked before, and I had a tendency to sort of be like, oh, like I choked, like I played bad, or I had a bad game or whatever. But then there came a point where I had to sort of realize as a caller, it was my job to make us not choke. Whether that means changing the play style or changing how we played or whatever, it sort of falls on, if you have one guy who's really important to the calls, it's kind of on that guy to fix the choking issues for the team. Even though it's maybe not fair, I don't think we can blame Ombrak, but I think he needs to get those kids in line, basically. I don't know what their problem is because I don't have the same insight because of the language, but I don't know, maybe you know more than me, but I feel like, yeah, they've got some kind of issue that they need to figure out, and it might be on him to fix it for them. Or he might be the cause, I don't know.
I think there's more to that, but I'll wait till later on till we're talking about GA, because I think it's a bit more relevant then.
Alright, cool.
One thing I will say about Raymond, though, it's like up until after I-58, he was like clearly still one of the best medics in the game, but I think it wasn't until after Rewind that in my head he really became like solidified as the best of all time.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a player at any tournament have like that level of consistency at performing at such a high level that like it made a difference throughout the tournament. I don't think Seven would have got to the final if it wasn't for Raymond performing like he did that. And I think it's the first time that I had seen a medic, like, it's kind of hard to say, but like I think he carried in a sense that, like, you know, he just performed consistently almost in like every push, every minute of the game that he was playing that tournament, he was doing like really well, and it added so much to the team. And after Rewind, I was like, I can pretty much accept the fact that to me he's like the best medic of all time now.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how little he's fucking played medic. Before he joined Crowns, he played 1 season of Prem. I don't know if he even played medic before then. He played 1 season of medic and Prem. Like, Epsilon had him as a backup in their like dominant era. They then had him for the season after I-49 where they just crushed everyone without trying, without scrimming. He played medic for that season. He didn't play medic since then. We like Crowns, we were just like, all right, Perm's got to go for various reasons. It's sort of mutual. Who do we know who plays medic? Raymond. Fucking hell, let's get Raymond.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the best medic in the world of all time. Cool. Literally, it's how it went. Like,
it's pretty helpful.
Yeah, and it's like he wasn't as good when he joined as he is now. But like, consider that like I don't know, like 90% of his Prem experience has come in the last 9 months. Yeah. Like since he was automatically the best medic in the world, he's then had 90% more experience. So it's sort of ridiculous when you think about it like this.
I think
my problem is, my problem is I'm immensely biased and bloody love Raymond anyway. But like, he is one of those players on 7 who is just it's like Drac to other roamers. It's just exceptionally good and just like a different tier.
Raymond went from Division 4 to Division 3, Division 1 season, Division 2. Then he joined Epsilon, 1 Prem. And then he didn't play in the class or Prem again until like season 24. It's ridiculous.
I think he's one of the players that I think the game was at like probably nearing its peak in terms of the level of play, at least in terms of decision making, maybe not mechanically, when Raymond was joining Epsilon. Yeah. And I think he learned that like he's got a great understanding of the game from that, and then he's brought that into 7 now. He's like, I think there's a clear distinction to be made between a lot of top level medic mains like are only good at medic. Yeah. But I think there's a clear difference between those guys and the medics that can play other classes. Raymond can play every class at like a decent level.
Raymond owns at every class.
He's just got a really fundamental understanding of the game that like most players, like even standout players, like if the example I'll give, like Marosh, he's one of the most talented scouts in Europe just now, but he doesn't have the same like level of understanding on the multiple classes and how the game works and the dynamics of it that Raymond does. And like even though he's not played for a few seasons before joining the Crowns roster, like he just has a better understanding of the game than most of the active players.
Yeah, I forget when it was, but it was absolutely ages ago, and it was before. It must have been years and years ago. It was like we were playing you know those dumb CS maps where it's like a obstacle course. I can't remember what it's called. It's like something run.
Like Death Run?
Death Run, yeah. I remember playing Death Run with Raymond. He's just like schooling the entire world on these shitty Death Run maps. But I remember thinking then, like, wow, he's like literally like one of the most skillful like gamers, just like natural, you know, like
natural
gamers.
Talent,
yeah, like just like one of the most naturally skilled players I've ever seen in any game. Kind of nuts. I don't know what the fuck he's still doing in TF2, to be honest. Because I mean, sure, all these
making bank.
Yeah, like all these players are really good at TF2, but I mean, realistically, how many of the people we're talking about now, if they went and played another game, do you think could actually just like rise to like a very high level? I feel like Raymond could go play any fucking game.
I think it's not just Raymond, it's a few of the players on like to me, Raymond, Drac, Puskari, and Ali stand out as 4 players that could go to other games, other FPS games and just pound. Because just the natural talent on those players is just like exceptional.
Right, I think we've jabbed Raymond off enough now.
It's been a solid 10 minutes, right? Okay. Raymond's happy with himself.
So Stinson, did Raymond win after all that?
Give us a rundown.
Yes.
Shocker.
So yeah, so Umbrek on third, 13.4%. Raptor on second place, 23%, and Raymond first with 63.6% of the votes. Congratulations, Raymond.
More or less than I expected, to be honest, and
yeah, pretty good that boy.
Let's not say any more about Raymond, for God's sake.
I just realized halfway through the conversation that like how like I never really dwelled on it before, how impressive it was, like how little experience you had before then. So it just it never really occurred to me before. But anyway, moving on.
As a medic main, I approve this massive medic discussion.
So, which 7 player will win our next award as we move on to Offclasser of the Season, Stinson? Talk us through the nominees.
Yeah, there's actually someone nominated. So, Offclasser of the Season, Thalash, Marosh, and Mookie.
That's a juicy one. Over to you, nuze.
Well, Mookie's the like the purest off-classer of the season in that he doesn't have a main class. But
I was going to say, in terms of his off-classing, I barely saw him on Soldier, so I don't know whether he can really be considered.
Can you off-class if you don't have a class? That's
exactly.
The problem.
Point, actually.
We're getting quite deep into philosophy here.
Disqualified.
I don't think he counts. I don't think he can have any votes. Possible.
But the problem is, right, having looked at the games, like, I've never really known what Low Panda's doing. I always just see, like, Ubers and Mr. Epic, isn't it? Just, like, absolutely, like, pound everything. I assume Mookie does a lot of things. He telefragged Crayon.
That was
undeniably hilarious. You can't, like, that was just actually the fact that happened in a Prem official. Undeniably funny. He's definitely committed to off-classing. In terms of... I say, you don't know, maybe the fact that he's constantly off-classing is just so good at, like, tilting the enemy team that it legitimately makes them win games they wouldn't win otherwise. I don't know. I don't want to think about the whole situation.
I think there genuinely is a part of that. And not only that, but, like, because of his personality, like, he's such a little shit troll, you know? Like, you can just imagine, like, what he's, like, going through his head when he fucks you that hard. I feel like that in itself is, like, tilting for people, because he's just, like, that kind of guy. At least, I don't know him. That's how he seems.
Yeah.
I think that genuinely has an impact on the play, I think. But, I mean, I don't know how I never, like, know how to decide this award, because I feel like Marosh in the playoffs had the biggest impact of classing. Like, I remember
that's exactly what I was going to say. He had, like, a lot of, like, real key moments, some, like, real big stuff to change the flow of what was happening in a lot of parts of the playoffs.
Yeah. Did Thalash have moments this season? Because, like, I feel like all the moments I can remember of Thalash were in previous seasons, and on Pocket Scout, I don't know how much he even sniped this season. I'm not sure
I know
what he did.
He had a couple key moments. Like, there was one
he
proper,
had the
like,
one on
pixel
Reckoner, right?
On Sunshine. No, Reckoner. That was the one.
Yeah, I remember that one.
A proper, like,
pixel
sick. Shot. That was pretty nutty.
Yeah, that was, like, the most sure I've been he cheats in, like, 3 years.
Yeah.
Honestly. I don't know much about this one, though. It's always a bit weird, because I think it just comes down to the fat plays, rather than, like, consistent performances. And also, to an extent, like, it comes down to who off-classed the most. I mean, I guess not in this case, because we have Mookie this time around, but most seasons it's literally, like, who tried the hardest to off-class, and they kind of win by default. And also, like, I feel like once someone's considered a good off-classer, like, they're just going to win this award probably, even though he probably wasn't the best off-classer this season. But once you win it once, you just go on a streak of winning it. Like, it was Flippy, and before that it was JH, and whoever it is. They win it once, they'll win it until they quit. It's how it always is, so I'm sure Thalash won.
Yeah, well, as I said, the only thing I was going to say is, like, Thalash had, like, a couple moments, but I can't remember an insane amount. Maris had a lot of good moments in the playoffs, like, more than...
He had so many key picks, man. Like, it wasn't like 6 shots,
like, it wasn't crazy. Yeah, but that was gonna, like, it wasn't insanely flashy, but it was consistent. Like, he, like, all those shots on Sniper, which, you know, it's the shots where, like, you really should hit them. He always did. So that point of view, you could say consistent, but I'm a little bit worried there might be some kind of ganging together of certain players to vote Mookie in, but.
Oh, right, yeah, I never thought about that. Like, the whole Highlander community is voting for Mookie, I guess.
Well, I mean, one thing I thought about while taking the nominations is Offclasser of the season was pretty much in Six's Prem best sniper, right? Because there's no other really valid option to offclass. So, you know, I'm not sure if you do Mookie justice if you just say, you know, he's only good at one thing or two things.
In terms of impact across the range of, like, off classes, Mookie's sort of in a category of his own there. Because I mean, who else did anything memorable on NG or anything like that this season? Like,
absolutely spent no one. 15 minutes a game on heavy.
Yeah,
and yet
it's a hard one.
Do things on it.
It's a hard one. I think we should just go to the results because it's impossible.
I think it could be anything. Yeah. All right, let's go to the results. Give us a rundown.
The results are actually pretty clear. So, as opposed to you guys' opinion, Marosh came in third with 19.5%. And I personally am very delighted to say that Mookie did indeed win the award. So the first not 7 player with 51.9%, so over half of the votes. In the people's mind, he's a hero, and I agree. So congratulations. So Edward's gonna be so happy about it.
Oh, that's no. My heart goes out to him.
There are going to be some words about this, I feel.
So Talash has cut, Mookie's in, right?
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
Oh boy.
There we go. Now that deal is set up. Let's keep it rolling, then. So next up is debut of the season.
The nominees were Adam Racecar, Ella Coor, and Papi.
Wait, who was it?
Adam Racecar.
Papi.
Oh.
P-A-P-I.
Adam and
Ella Coor.
Ella Coor.
Okay, I was following the amusing chat reaction to this. Sorry, gang.
On this award, I'll say the same stuff that I said about Adam in the Demoman of the Season award. Like, coming into this season as with no previous Prem experience, not really played on a solid team in a meta that's like hard to play demo. Like, this guy's just come in and outclassed almost all the demos in Prem with the exception of Ali. And I think it's pretty clear to me that he deserves to win this. I think Papi and Elikor both came up as sort of big, like, new players. Papi played really well at GA, and like throughout the season he's I think he's quite vocal for Nanya. And he's got a good understanding of the game for someone that's only played 4 seasons now. I think he went from open playoffs, mid playoffs, high playoffs, and now he's in Prem. Which doesn't happen that often, like 4 seasons to Prem, and he's a player that kind of deserves it over a lot of the other players that like climb up the divs. And Elikor, while I think he is like mechanically one of the best demos in Prem, and he hits nuts shots.
Did he?
I think there's a lot of fundamentals to his play that are kind of lacking.
Did he disprove the like accusations? He was at GA, right? Do you think
he was
as good on GA? Because everyone says like I hear from loads of people like genuinely saying like they think he cheats. Oh, I don't know. I haven't played against him.
When I first saw his frag clip, like the net flick one night, there was a couple clips that I thought it was pretty sketchy, and I was a bit skeptical. But I'm good friends with Zesty, and I've spoken to him about it, and I don't think he's hacking, and I think it's a bit, especially after GA, like he played the same kind of way that he does online, and he still puts out like stupid amounts of damage and hits crazy pipes. But I don't think it means too much about his Demoman play besides the fact that he can hit shots. I don't think that defines him as a really good demo.
Yeah, like I
think
never
people overrate him a little bit.
I never read too much into these like accusations that I heard about him, because I'm like, he plays fucking demo. Like cheats can't make you good at demo. You can have a couple of insane shots, maybe, but even then, what? Like, why would you cheat with pipes? Like, it wouldn't make any sense. So I always just kind of discredited those, but I thought it was a point worth making. But yeah, I agree with you on that. Adam they're all like quite good, like up and comers, but Adam is like head and shoulders here.
Yeah.
From like a personal point of view, same as what you said. Like Adam definitely 100% like should win it in every way. Elikor for me didn't really like stand out massively. Maybe it's just because it was like a bottom half Prem team and didn't see a great deal of the games. In terms of Papi, I'm expecting again some kind of like fucking Papi conglomerate to like somehow vote him to like win this thing. But all I'm saying is like the dude who's on the team which loses every map bar 1, and that one map was against an off-classing 3 out of 6. I feel you can't vote that as like not when you have a demo whose first season in Prem he got second. I'm just hoping that we use logic here and not, well,
to give him some credit though, I think Papi's the kind of player that if he was on a better team, he could really I don't think it's a coincidence that he's climbed to Prem and got a nominee for debut of the season in 4 seasons time. I think he's a player that genuinely has got a talent for developing and like improving as a player. I think he's got he's got a really good attitude, and that's something that you don't see a lot in like upcoming players these days. But I think on a better team he would have been more of a like standout roamer this season. But I think just because he was playing with Nanya and they were getting outclassed by most of the other teams in Prem, there wasn't too much he could do.
So maybe different team, different season, where like you didn't have someone like Adam playing could have maybe stole it away from someone. But I don't know. I want to hear it. Oh no, do you want go ahead?
I was just going to say he's like, for me at least, he's come onto my radar since the season ended, and like with this GA team and things like that. I didn't actually watch Nanya play because I thought they would always lose and it wouldn't be interesting, which is pretty much the case for 90% of their games. But like since then, like it's hard to judge because for me at least, he's looked good, like with this LAN team and stuff. So clearly now he's like a good up and comer. But I don't know to what extent it was. But it was not valid. I don't know to what extent it was demonstrated during the season because I didn't really follow that team that much.
I mean, he does have 100% win rate on LAN, so he could be winning this.
The best outcome out of GA. GA debut of the season.
We're doing it. We're hearing it.
Go on then, Stinson. Give us the scores.
Yes. Debut of the season. Third place, Elacour with 16%. And this is the biggest margin of tonight. So Adam wins with 66.5% of all votes, and Puppy comes in second with 17.5%. So almost more than 50%.
Oh yeah,
I think he deserves that. To be honest, I don't think anyone's deserved Prem debut ever as much as Adam has this season.
I'm going to contest that. I'm going to see.
Maybe there's someone that I'm forgetting, but
go through the record books.
But out of memory, he's the one that by far deserves this.
I think I'm with Nuze with this. Most Prem debuts always seem to just sort of be, one of the promoted teams or anything. Like
I feel like we said the same thing about
team.
We said the same thing about Pascari last season, though. I think because he won. That was like pretty legit because he was on the AMS kind of. It wasn't a mixed team, but they changed roster so much it felt like one, and he like dominated during playoffs as on like that third place team in the end. But there was also Ass. Oh wait, that's Highland.
I think it's so hard to like having a Prem debut on demo. Like there's so much more that you need to learn in Prem as demo than on Soldier or Scout or Medic. Like you can play around your team a lot more. Demo, you have to be very disciplined and make like a lot of the right decisions. And he learned all that stuff really quickly.
Yeah, Captain also won it once. Alright, I think Ast. There's some names.
Ast has won it. Nuki's won it.
Nuki was like, yeah.
Shadowburn.
When was the last time there was a demo winning Prem debut?
I don't think it ever happened. Actually, I think that's probably the best part about it. But I think you're right when you say
look at the
role
margin
really makes it.
Is that our Sunny Black fun fact for the night? Adam Racecar first demo Prem debut ever.
Maybe.
I second that.
I think the fact he did it on demo in a team that was so inexperienced, because the whole team wasn't experienced really. Like Marosh was not. He's like has one season. Raptor has like no experience. I mean, Shocky does, but it's like sick as. I didn't even see that guy.
85F.
85F. Yeah.
They're not big names.
I think the circumstance makes it more than the player like doing it with those like odds kind of stacked against him. Whereas like Ass and Captain did it in. I guess Captain did it in a team of like no names, but Ass did it with a bunch of like credible players. I think.
The key thing to take away is that Stinson, you should definitely, as a congratulations and celebration of him winning, change his ETF2L name to Adam Bracecar forever.
Yeah,
I think we've got to that point by now. Let's be real.
I'll consider it. Thank you for your feedback.
No worries.
After a quick skim as well, I think he is the first Demoman. Like it's all scouts.
Yeah.
Like some big names, but it's all scouts.
They're pretty much all these like passive scouts who just get heals and clean up stuff.
Like Tavik, Quad, these passive scouts.
Well, that's going like way back though. I'm thinking more like because Pascari is quite passive. Even though he played flank scout this season, he's quite passive. Like P-Rez won it. He's like super passive. I guess Sorex is the exception to the rule, but Ast, like the last 4 seasons, like 4 out of the last 5 seasons were won by like passive scouts. Either way, moving on.
Let's do it then. So only 2 awards left. Caster of the season and best player. Let's go to caster of the season first.
Oh boy.
So does this still work like it used to, where everybody who casted X amount of games is still nominated?
As long as it's on TFTV.
I think it was 4 games or more.
It used to be 3 games or more, but then Sideshow said if you because he casted 3 games and he said please put it to 4. So we took 4 or more this time.
Okay. Who was nominated then?
Your nominees were TurboTaps, Hipfire, The Frosty, Frisk, Nuze, Warrior, Beta, and Bren. Not sure how livid the discussion will be, but
if Bren wins again, do we have to have him in for an acceptance speech?
No.
I wouldn't be surprised if Bren won.
Fun fact, Bren tweeted earlier that if Nuze doesn't win, he quits. Not sure what he's quitting, but he said he quits.
I voted Nuze. I think any situation in which you have an experienced player coming in to do analysis is always like a really positive thing for the game. Like we have, considering like Bren as an example, like we've had people who've been like good like play-by-play casters and that kind of thing, but to have a caster who can cast and do analysis like at the same time, I think it adds such a like better depth to actually watching the game than just kind of hearing people saying about like what's happening on screen.
Yeah, I mean, like before the season, I started.
Do you disagree with me complimenting you? You're just like, actually,
Yeah, I
quite
agree. Going into this season, like I was doing a bit of coaching and started to stream a little bit, and I thought that I might as well try casting because I feel like I could have. There's a lot of like really good play-by-play casters, but I feel like analysis was something that was lacking in TFTV's coverage quite a bit. Like there's some good analysts, like Sideshow is actually really good at both roles, but he obviously is doing the stuff in the game that shall not be named now, so he doesn't have much time to do TF2 stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to give it like a good shot this season of trying to bring some proper analysis to the EU scene at least.
I thought you were good. And one thing that's like probably worth thinking about is like when it comes to lands, you're always going to be able to pull random play-by-play casters out of retirement because coming and casting at lands is so much more enticing. Whereas the analysts need to actually follow the game to really offer much to a cast. They need to follow the game and have some knowledge. So having like active analytical casters is like, for me at least, more beneficial for the scene at large because you can sort of just pull like random, like, you know, you might be able to pull Sideshow in for I-61 or something like this, but if you came in as an analyst, it wouldn't be the same because you like the best part of analysis is like in-depth knowledge, I think.
Yeah, I said like just in terms of the way I enjoy watching TF2, I would much rather have people like way more analysis than like play-by-play stuff because to a degree, I feel like at times the play-by-play can go like a bit over the top. If you consider it from the point of view like a lot of CS casting, like there'll be times in which they more or less ignore a great deal of what's happening because you can like they know that you can see it and they'll go to like analyze what they think is going to happen or like what happened before.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in terms of our play-by-play, we can just have too much just talking about like what's on the screen. So like just to mention other casters, obviously Bren's always like been a fan favorite for quite a while. I personally like Beta's stuff quite a bit, but in terms of impact on the season, gotta be that guy or wherever I'm supposed to be pointing.
I think Bren's the best play-by-play caster in TF2 just now. I mean, Sideshow's not really casting. I think he'd get that title, but Bren's like, especially when he came in as not an experienced player and he was kind of new to casting, he developed like really quickly, and now his play-by-play casting is like really good. I like casting with him. And I've heard a lot of good things about Frisk, but I didn't actually get the chance to listen to any of the games he casted this season. He was one of the names that people mentioned a lot for like one of the better casters that started the season. I don't know if you guys have seen his games or can comment on that, but
I saw kind of like quite a decent bit, and I won't name names, but some of it was kind of like a bit hit and miss. But just in terms of there was a lot of new casters this season, the fact that more people like there was like a big thing this season to try and get a bunch of new casters. Just say like it is obviously appreciated. Like if people stick with the casting and like effort into learning whatever parts again they need to, like developing their own stuff, like I think there's definitely like loads of room in TF2 to be like a really really good caster if people stick at it. So just, you know.
I think one of the other things that like when I started watching TF2, I watched mostly NA TF2, and I don't know if you guys know about Sigma. Yeah. But Sigma was like,
Sigma.
They called him the mad scientist of TF2 because he was like really good for analysis, and he would do like halftime talks in NA matches because they obviously split their games into halves, and he would make predictions that were like accurate a stupid amount of the time and stuff, and I felt that added a lot to casts. Like I learned a lot about how the game worked from a good analyst talking about like the in-depth details. And I feel like that's kind of important, and you see that a lot in other bigger esports, but there's not been as much in TF2.
Let's do it then, Stinson. Talk us through from bottom to top.
I want to hear the turbo tabs percentage.
Do you guys really want me to read out every single percentage?
Yep.
Yep, it's tradition.
Okay, well, I don't mind. So
this is as much about embarrassment as it is about, you know, congratulating the winner.
I was going to say that exactly.
It's fine if you guys make the choice. I just didn't want to embarrass somebody. So 8th place is Frisk, 4%.
Okay.
7th place, Turbo Tubs, 6.4%. 6th place, The Frosty, 7.1%. 5th place, Hipfire, 7.6%. 4th place, Peter, 14%.
Oh boy.
Look
Approaching
at
the meta ranks.
Look at Nuze getting nervous in the camera by
So nervous,
Look at him.
He's so nervous.
Yeah, he does look nervous. 3rd place, and I guess our boy Bren has to quit something because Nuze is on the 3rd place, 16.6%. And winning cast of the season, which I don't know, but you guys voted, is Warrior with
Wow.
27.1%.
27%.
Bren second with 17%. So actually a
Warcast.
surprisingly
Wow.
big margin, yeah. He's like, my
Didn't expect
personal
that.
opinion is War is pretty entertaining, but I think there are better
Alright,
casters out
boys.
there.
I think, like, I remember one game that I was doing analysis for, and I think it was War and TurboTabs casting, or War and Hipfire. And I feel like War, he kind of has a tendency to, like, have his little dry British humor, like memes and stuff while he casts. But when I was doing the analysis and we actually started discussing it, like, he has a lot of, like, good analysis and good points that he, like, sometimes forgets to, or, like, I don't know, he just doesn't do it a lot of the time, but he's perfectly capable of, like, being a really good analyst. Also, I'm very sad.
I was saying, Bugler, I'm ignoring all of your votes. Actually, the Pirate Radio honorary cast of the season was Nuze. There, I've done it. Decision's made. Ignore
3rd
the
place
rest of
is
it.
pretty good though for like your first season casting, because it's one of those things where you acquire, more so than the players, you like acquire a fan base to some extent. So just in virtue of being around
That's
and
true.
having more people watch you cast regularly, you sort of just accrue like this is probably why Sideshow wanted it to be 4 games and not 3, because he probably felt, and rightfully so, he had a really good chance of winning undeservedly if he was included in the vote, just because he's like accrued a lot of fans over the years. So like coming 3rd is like actually quite good, I think, for like the first season.
Also, I still have this motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
In the GA trophy, boys.
The GA
So,
caster trophy.
Are you sending that to War now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's his now.
I think
sorry.
he deserves it.
So basically, what Kato is saying is that you have to commit to casting next season, season after season after season after,
Yeah.
and then. But
You could cast twice as bad
guaranteed.
next season and probably get twice as many votes just in virtue of more exposure. I think that's pretty much,
Probably.
to some extent, how it
Probably,
works.
Season 30 is yours, Nuze. Don't quit.
You should set up a Twitter though, so people can actually find you. So yeah. Big boy
Oh yeah, you
news.
should.
Yeah.
How else are you gonna become famous, dude? You're an esports personality now.
Then you join Overwatch casters for actually making money.
I'm really surprised Bren didn't win.
No,
yeah,
I
I thought as soon as Bren was like had enough games to be nominated, I was like, Bren's gonna win.
Yeah,
I would have predicted like literally any other result than War. Not to be too rude. I just like that's legitimately super surprising.
Yeah.
I feel like he's got like a bit of a like that casting style where some people love it and some people like hate it. It's like quite like an acquired taste, I guess. It's not just like a default kind of platonic everyone sort of likes it style. So I just thought Bren would win in virtue of being the most like widely appealing, whilst being technically like very good at the actual like play-by-play cast.
Yeah.
I thought that would just do it for him, especially because he's been like streaming a lot like this season as well. Not like TF2 necessarily, but like I said before, like with acquiring a fan base, he's been very visible. I think I'm really surprised actually he didn't win.
Dude, my stream's been getting lit. I like it.
Making that fat Twitch money.
Yeah.
Right, do you want to go to the last one then?
Let's do it then. The big one of the
Best
night.
player.
Best player of the season. Who was nominated, Stinson?
Oh, best player of the season. Nominees were all from 7. Captain, LA, and Raymond. So pick your favorite 7 player and be done with it, I guess.
I mean, I thought we were done, like, jerking off Raymond, but I will say I voted for Raymond because I don't think 7 would be the team it is without him on Medic.
I'm actually trying to remember. I can't remember who I voted for at all.
I think you can go back and check.
I think. I mean, you look at the lineup. Like, Spud played before Ali, and they had like just as dominant results. They had Amps playing at Rewind when Captain wasn't there, and they played a good level. But like Raymond, he's such an important person to this team, such an important player. I don't think like he to me is just the best player in Europe right now. And I think he deserves to win this, but I don't know what you guys think.
Not that I disagree, but I think it's worth keeping in mind they've probably achieved the same level as they had at Rewind whilst losing Stark, and Captain's a big part of that. It's not like he just replaced Ams. Captain was actually the direct replacement for Stark, and then Piscari was actually Ams' replacement. So that's how I tend to think about that transition. So Captain gets more like credit in that regard.
That's fair enough.
I think with Captain, like of all the 7 players, he's by far like the least motivated to actually play TF2 at the moment. He just sort of does it like because he's playing with like his old team essentially that he's been in for years, and he maintains this like ridiculous level whilst not even being particularly engaged with the game. I don't know. For me, it's between him and Raymond. Like Ali could so easily have won this as well if he had played to his true like potential. Like if he hit like his like landform all season or in playoffs, he could totally be in with a shout as well. But for me, it's like probably between Raymond and Captain, and Raymond just sort of gets it. Maybe just, but I don't know. This is like it's kind of like Stinson said. Who's your like pick your favorite player? Essentially, they're all like incredible.
Yeah, well, I went and checked. Apparently, I voted for Captain, but yeah, Captain or Raymond, I'd be happy with either one. I think I only really voted for Captain just because every time you see Captain at LAN, I always think he's just the most adorable little ginger 12-year-old. I mean that not in a necessarily rude way. I just think he's...
I voted for Captain because...
No, come on, actually.
Like, I voted for Captain because if memory serves, he should have won it last season, but Stark like stole it. Not stole it, but like Stark won it, even though Stark wasn't the best player. Captain was easily the best player last season. So I voted for Captain because I have this kind of like hangover of... I don't know, I just sort of feel like he should have won it at some point. So I voted for him in that regard, but like Raymond is just as deserving, I think.
Yeah, I think either one's fine, really. Don't have any particular likes or dislikes, so we're going to do it, we're going to find it out. Stinson?
Yeah, sure.
Sonny Black?
I was waiting for CX to make the transition, but you know, if the host's not...
Oh, sorry, okay, sorry, CX. Do you want to go do your thing?
I was watching this war clip of him reacting to him winning. Sorry, the chain distracted me. But yeah, Stinson, talk us from bottom to top. Who was the best player of ETF2L season 26?
Okay, so in third place is everybody's favorite Raymond, with 21% of the votes. So Medic not quite as flashy. And the best player of the season 26, powered by TTE Esports, was Ellie with 44.7%,
wasn't it?
44.7%, and Captain second with 34%. So congratulations, Ellie.
Congrats to Ellie.
I think he even won
MVP
in Highlander as well, so you know that just makes sense.
To his credit, I think he's probably the most, like when you're considering all things like in-game in terms of calls, team morale and stuff, I think he's the most... He does take a lot of resources and like a lot of maybe calling space in the team, but I think he's the most like impactful individual player in the world. Like all the other top demos play kind of looser, more supportive roles, and Ali's very integral to his team. And I think you can only do that if you're like talented enough mechanically and in terms of decision making on demo. Like if there's any flaws to your play, any significant flaws to your play, you can't main call and lead a team at a top level on demo because it's not powerful enough for a class to do that.
Yeah, I think we've probably, at least I have, we've probably undersold how kind of important he is for the team, just because he has such a high level that he can hit, and I don't think he hit it all the way this season. It's almost because I know how good he is, that when he doesn't quite hit that level and only has it in like maps here and there, that maybe like I'm underselling him because of that, but he's still like ridiculously good. Like even though like it's just that he has such a high ceiling that you can't have that ceiling the whole time, and it makes it seem almost less impressive just because of how good he is. But yeah, I think any of them could have won this. They're all pretty good. Don't want to brag, but I did put them together. Told them to play. And
I will say, in terms of the calling, there was one game that they were playing this season. I think it was against Lemmings. Or sorry, not Lemmings. Lopander. I don't know, one of the teams they were playing, and they played a product game where there was a lot of like weird stuff like Vaccinator, Pirate that they were playing against. And I was speaking to Ali in interviews after. I don't know if Raymond was there as well, but Raymond took over quite a bit of the calling like with that stuff because I don't think Ali was really used to it. And like, I think those are the kind of things where Raymond's understanding and just like experience comes into play. So I think Ali and Raymond are both two of the most impactful players for 7, like in terms of calling as well as in-game stuff. But I mean, yeah, I'm not really surprised that Ali wins.
The good news for the game is Captain didn't win, so he's forced to play another season so he can try and win again. He told me the other day he's not going to quit the game until he wins Player of the Season.
Fair.
Oh, that's
He didn't actually say that, but
he definitely said it. That's
he
a fact
definitely
now.
said it. Yeah.
It's interesting how your relationship is going to be with 7 now, Kato, considering you've just announced to everyone who your favorite child is. So
he just should have won it. Like, he maybe shouldn't have won it this season. It's like a toss-up, but he should have won it at some point.
Well, if you're the least interested in TF2, though, maybe you don't deserve it. Like, from the team.
But now, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, now maybe he doesn't deserve it now, but like last season he wasn't the least interested. Sorry, as in the season before this one that we just played.
Enough.
It's only this season he sort of dropped off with his interest. But up until then, he was always like super like engaged.
I'd like to see the return of the Captain shotgun, because Captain has the best shotgun in the game by miles. The guy doesn't miss.
Yeah, it was really weird actually. It's really weird to think about because he used to be like, it was almost a hindrance to us originally because the gunboat's meta kind of arrived. Yeah, and Captain was still very shotgunny, and it wasn't until we played with Nox calling and sort of everyone had so much respect for Nox that we just sort of did what he said. And that's when Captain really got like into gunboats. It's weird to think actually he used to be super shotgun heavy.
Yeah, people forget how good he was with shotgun. Like, I think he was. I mean, he's like the best soldier in terms of how he aims rockets as well. But I don't think there's a soldier that can use shotgun as well as Captain. And I think for playing the kind of it doesn't complement the 7 style that much, shotgun pocket, so it doesn't really work. But
it's even just the main caller, like having a demo main calling, you know?
Yeah, it like, you know, because you want to be putting resources into the people that are central to the team and leading like that. I think, like, when you see Rewind, Paddy had a lot of big games using shotgun pocket, and that works with their style of play as a team.
Yeah.
Like, I think Captain has a much higher skill ceiling as, like, what he can do as a player if he has, like, if he was playing that kind of role that Paddy was playing in a Froyo Tech kind of team. Like, with that style of play, I think Captain would have unreal levels of impact in game.
But it's all kind of because his previous team, I forget what it was called. Was it Planet Express? With like Slushy, Sheepy, but that team was based around Captain. Like they put a lot of emphasis on him getting like a majority share of everything. Whereas like if you've got a demo main caller, that's most likely not going to happen.
Yeah, I think the Paddy point really sends it home because I don't know where I heard this from and to what extent it's true, but I think this was the case. Like when Paddy started running shotgun, I think Paddy took a lot more control of the team. At least this was how I had it explained to me by an American at Rewind. Maybe it was even Paddy, I don't know. Like the point at which Paddy really became like an exceptional player on his own right was when he started using shotgun, and also that was like him sort of being given permission to sort of take command, or more command at least, of the team. TF2 is quite a unique game, I think, in the way its calling works. Like in other games, the guy who's main calling in the game is normally like the least impressive player.
Yeah.
Like you don't see very often in TF2 the medic main calling, whereas in like CS, it's always like the equivalent of medic would call in CS like the supportive player who's not really at the forefront of the action, whereas in TF2 it's the complete opposite. To call in TF2 effectively, you need to be the guy at the front leading, calling, like asking for pops, asking for Ubers and things like this. And that kind of puts all the emphasis in. This is partly what's so impressive about Captain is he's always played with a Demoman main caller like his entire time in Prem. I don't know about Planet Express, but like he played with me the rest of the time, and then Ali after that.
And he can still be the carry role.
Yeah, he's always like been incredible despite not having like that. Yeah,
it's just the consistency. Like you don't often see it to like that level, like that consistently, just pumping out damage and pumping out frags.
Yeah, there's something that Thorin talks about, which is like support players versus carry players, and like you can model teams in different ways of having like maybe 3 support players and 3 carry players, or 2 supports, 2 carries, and then 2 guys that are like sort of in between. But like the base of that idea is that you can't have 6 players that all try to do big impact kind of roles within a team. Like that doesn't work. You need people that are supporting the players that are having impact, and you need people that are taking the sport and doing work with it.
Yeah, Captain's just like the dream.
Yeah, and Captain's just like so good in both regards. I don't know, it's kind of crazy that he's not won best player before, because he's just exceptional. I consider him the best pocket of all time, so I don't know how he's not won like best player before.
Yeah, Ali's good. He like leads the team and plays to a really high level at the same time, which is easier said than done. Like we say, it's like the main caller gets all the resources and stuff in TF2, but you still have to be like really exceptional to multitask like that. So yeah, Ali is also deserving, I think. Woo!
Probably also considering the fact that he's mostly stoned for his games, I presume. At least he was at LAN.
That's a 7. Do not endorse this statement. The official view is sobriety rocks.
Well, Rewind must have been good for him then, right? Because it's legal in California.
Ali 420, he knows. Did he? I didn't know. The management didn't know about this if it was taking place. Let me tell you that.
Okay, just those PEDs.
Yeah, don't know what else we can really say. I think basically every award was pretty well deserved, even though 7 didn't quite sweep it. Most of them.
Quite Mookie, shoutouts to Mookie. Offclasser this season.
I was gonna say, did anyone lose more than twice? Is Thalash the biggest loser of the awards?
I don't think anyone's ever lost the awards as hard as Thalash lost these awards.
Yeah,
Shots
Pretty
fired.
I just wanted to make sure, just interested, you know?
Like I was like thinking for sure he was going to win both. I thought like with Stark out of the picture, he would just take it almost by default. I think he deserved Scout at least, but I thought he would get both just in virtue of being like a popular player.
Somebody said in chat at the beginning of the show, I think when he lost Scout was like in before he's the only player on 7 who doesn't win an award. So. Shout out to that guy, whoever that was. I don't have anything against you, Talash. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So now
That's
that's it for the awards.
Yeah.
So I think we're planning. Do you want to do the wrap up of season 26 of the playoffs before or after the break?
Well, that was just like if there's anything more to say. I think we covered everything really though. Like we sort of talked about everyone a lot.
There wasn't really much else to say, which we haven't already mentioned in regards to playoffs. It kind of went as expected, and players we already talked about from their awards, basically.
All right, then, let's do it. Let's go to a break, and then when we're back, we'll talk through a bunch of other stuff, Gamers Assembly, which I'm sure Nuze will love, I-61, and a look ahead to season 27. So yeah, let's take us to a break.